Okay, wow, that was very, very educational. We are going to move on to our next speaker that we have. She'll also be talking about success in career and professional success and her journey as well. So, Gulenay Saydahmat is an Uyghur American who was raised in Virginia. She recently completed her undergraduate studies, graduating from Harvard University with a bachelor's in molecular and cellular biology and a minor in global health and health policy, as well as French. Wow. In July, she will be starting medical school at the University of Michigan. During her undergrad, she was a health educator with Boston Public Schools, as well as the director of social services at the Union Square Family Health Clinic, where she was conducting screenings with patients to assess need and compatibility with social welfare programs. She is experienced in working with immigrant populations within the healthcare system and hopes to continue her work as a community advocate in her future role as an internal medicine physician. We're going to go ahead and watch her video right now.
Everybody, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Gulenay, and I am so happy to be joining you today for this virtual conference. Thank you to everyone who organized it, to the Dharman Foundation, to all of my fellow speakers. And I hope everything is educational and insightful for all of you who are tuning in from home, and I hope that you're able to gain something from it. I'm here to talk to you about successful careers and investing in education, but before I get into that, I want to give you a little bit more about myself, some background information, just so you understand where I'm coming from and who I am. I am a proud Uyghur American. I was born and raised in Virginia. I am also a proud public school graduate. I say that because education is so important to how I view myself and understand my own story. I started in a public elementary school where there was a French immersion program. And through that program, I was able to nurture my love for the French language and culture, and that love has followed me into adulthood. I went to a public middle school, public high school as well, and then I was admitted early to Harvard College as an undergraduate. I was admitted in December of 2015, and then I started school in Cambridge at Harvard in August of 2016. And then I recently graduated with my bachelor's in molecular and cellular biology, as well as minors in global health and health policy and French, as you probably heard in my bio. I am going to be starting medical school at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor in July, and then from there continuing my medical training program wherever I may end up. So that's sort of where I'm at in terms of my career and my education. One of the questions that I got was about what my sort of path to success in my career was. And I think that, regardless of what program you end up applying to, or if you go into a program specialty at all, I think it's never going to be easy. If you apply to college or if you apply to medical school or law school, it's not going to be sort of a piece of cake, process. And I think it's one of those things that it may seem easy to people who are looking at it from the outside, but it's a project that takes constant investment and effort. There's really no shortcut or roundabout way of doing it. For me personally, what that looked like was starting in middle school and noticing that fascination I had when I was taking my first cell biology course and seeing like, okay, this is something that I can see myself making a career of, and investing all of my free time in researching more details about that information I was learning in classes, sort of giving myself the discipline and the structure and room to foster that curiosity from there. Of course, like that curiosity can come from any topic or subject. For me, it was in biology where I first realized that this was something that I deeply cared about and that I was willing to pursue long term. But for everyone, that looks different. That's just how I came about it. For me personally, then, professional success looks like, in the medical field at least, for me, to serve as a physician and have my service be impactful in a patient's life in some way, shape, or form. Medicine, especially preventative medicine and community health, which I'm interested in going into, is so much more than what happens in, just the four walls of a clinic, so much more than just my training. It involves the active participation of, patients, physicians, as well as nurses, and the rest of the clinical care team, as well as community resources and the patient's family and friends in their well-being. I think that being able to contribute meaningfully in a way that positively impacts the health of others, not just their physical health, their emotional well-being, all that stuff is what success would be for me. And in order to do that, I need to be trained properly to finish my education before I'm able to see patients. Um, I want to be able to empower patients to see that they have control over their own health. There are factors in their community that they may not have recognized, but that they can sort of create ownership over and take control of their own health. And that's sort of the ultimate goal for me in terms of my career, is to restore that power balance for the patients in the medical setting. Another question that I got was sort of about this notion that the path to success is often very hard, and that can sort of dissuade people from pursuing careers. I think that that's not entirely true. I think that regardless of whatever path or whatever phase you are at in your life, you're going to face decisions where you're going to have to make sacrifices. And that's just sort of a fact of the way that life exists for us. So I think that in pursuit of your goals and in pursuit of something that brings you fulfillment, that brings you joy, that brings you hope, that brings you happiness, like for me, that's in medicine and in helping people become better versions of themselves. That's something that's worth making sacrifices for. And you are going to have to make some. I was in the library when my friends were, at home resting, or I was in the clinic when my friends were going out for dinner, or I was in the lab when they were, going out with their friends. And that's sacrifice. But I think that, like I said, you're going to have to make sacrifices at any point in your life. And some of those are worth investing if it means it's going to bring you joy in the long term. Another point I want to make, sort of related to this notion that, it can be discouraging, the fact that you have to make sacrifices, or that, you're not always going to be having fun, is that you have to focus on something that really is like something that you're passionate about and that you care for deeply. Because I know that for me, for example, finishing my pre-med courses, there was a lot of instances where I could have given up that career choice that I had made. And I saw other people do it. And it was an easy thing for them to just sort of slip into, okay, I was never cut out for this, and this is not something that I want to pursue anymore. And if I was not truly convinced that that was where I belonged, then I could have also easily just as easily dropped it and changed my major and my entire career path and done something completely different with my life. And that would be a very different person talking to you at that point. But because I was so stubborn and so hard-headed in my conviction that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, this is something that motivates you, that pushes you when you're tired. It keeps you motivated. And I think that until you find something that makes you feel like that, then the rest of it is hard. It's intimidating. But when you find something that really truly speaks to, you feel like your core purpose and your soul, then at that point it becomes easier. It's not going to be easy, but it gets easier. Another question that I got was about qualities that I think lead to successful careers, and sort of off of what I was saying, that stubbornness, that tenacity, that dedication, the patience to say, I know that there is a path that I must traverse in order to achieve this one thing, and I know that I'm going to have to make sacrifices, and I know that it's not always going to be a walk in the park, but having the self-respect and the respect for your dreams in general to say, this is something that I'm going to be investing in, and this is going to be worth it long term. I think that's a very, very important feature. That goes, without saying, for every other field as well. But I've seen it, especially in medicine, as being something that, you have to go through all of this training, and it's a long, long time investment, but in order to have sort of the honor of being a practicing physician, you have to go through those stages and those obstacles and those jump through those hoops in order to get to where you can be having that positive impact in that community. And I think that everyone can be successful in a career. I don't think that that's reserved for, a specific person or a specific group of people, but I think that it's one of those things where it's very difficult at first to cultivate that tenacity. I'm still working on it, and it's something that I am aware of and I acknowledge as being important to my career success. But I think that, like, with muscles in your body, for example, that you have to exercise in order to get stronger, it's the same thing where you exercise your willpower, you exercise self-discipline, you exercise your willingness to make sacrifices, and it gets easier as time goes on. So that's as a tale of caution, as well as a reason for a hope that anybody can be successful. It just, takes that willingness to invest in yourself and in your own success long term. And in terms of my identity as being sort of an important part of my success and how I view myself in medicine, I write a lot about my identity as Uyghur American and, navigating dual identities that sometimes are in conflict with each other, being, a Muslim in America post 9/11, being an Uyghur American and a daughter of the Uyghur diaspora living in the United States, and seeing the privileges that I have access to as opposed to my ancestors who, were facing famine and were being exploited and things like that. So I write a lot about that, and I think I continue to grapple with it, but it's served me a lot in terms of every interaction that I have that informs my career, that informs my friendships, that informs my political views. All of that is shaped by this knowledge that I have this very strong line of ancestors who, were capable, were tenacious, were strong, were gritty. And I think that was so central to every interaction that I have, that therefore it's like inherently important for my success. And I think that that's something that I can take pride in, that a lot of people, don't have, is that pride in your ancestry, and in where your family comes from. And so I'm very grateful to be able to say that and to have that aspect of my life, sort of fueling my passions in medicine and sort of beyond that. Similarly, like being the first Uyghur American to be admitted to Harvard as an undergrad, and graduating from that university, and then being part of the first generation of American trained physicians, Uyghur physicians, like that, the importance and significance of that obviously is not lost on me. I think it's important that I have those conversations in spaces where people like us, people who are from our background, like we're never supposed to be admitted to, and using the platform that I have in those spaces to be able to advocate for the communities that we come from. And I hope to be able to continue doing that. And this is only just now getting started, and we have platforms like this where we are able to share our ideas, and I'm very grateful to be, part of a community that is actively speaking out and sharing experiences and stories about Uyghur people sort of in the 21st century. And in terms of other advice that I have for you, I think that outside of just investing in my education, one thing that has been really important for me is finding balance and striking balance in my life. So like education as being very central, but also remembering that, I have to take time to spend time with my family, to take care of myself, to invest in my own well-being. And for me, that takes shape in like physical activity and exercise. I was a varsity track and field athlete in high school. Did a lot of sports when I was a kid, and I've continued with running and hiking and cycling and things like that, just to get outdoors, um, to clear my head a little bit. And I find that exercising is very meditative for me. So it helps me not only like reflect on the day or the week ahead of me, but also on taking stock of my own emotions and how I'm feeling and things like that. Another thing that I really enjoy that helps me sort of take a break from constantly being connected online or being in my nose in my books and things like that is reading for pleasure. Um, I've read a lot of books recently since we've been in quarantine, um, about the history of the United States, the history of Central Asia, things like that. That's taking a break from my normal routine. I think that, you have to find what works best for you. Those, few things are my sort of outside hobbies that I found have been really helpful in maintaining that balance and keeping me feeling energized and rejuvenated and feeling like, okay, I can handle whatever comes my way. But find whatever works best for you and go from there, and make sure you incorporate that into your routine and not just, throw yourself completely into your projects, which you do need to a certain extent, but there's only so much you can give if you yourself are not feeling well. Um, so that's sort of my other main piece of advice. That's about all I have for you on my end. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Um, and I want to thank you for your time.
We want to thank Gulenay for her time. She couldn't be with us at the conference today, so she did send us a pre-recorded video kind of giving us some advice for the youth. So thank you for that.